John from Fatsack's blog here. In this video, I'm going to step you through my 21-point good content checklist. This is just a whole bunch of different little items pertaining to the content that you produced with the aim of getting it to rank number 1, 2, or 3 in Google. Preferably number 1, of course. First off, does it rank number 1 in Google? Okay, this is for folks who already have content ranking in top spots in Google. That is really golden data and information. If you have content ranking, look what you did and do more of that. That's what I do. You might as well not try to reinvent anything here. Just do what's working and do more of it, rinse and repeat. If you don't have any content ranking on the first page of Google, you're kind of flying blind, but just, do the best that you can. Eventually, hopefully, something is going to work and rank number 1 in Google. Look what you did. And when I say look at what you did and what's working already on your site, look at the keyword research. How competitive were those keywords? What kind of search volume do those keywords get? What type of content is it? That makes a big difference. Do more of that content. What specific topic is it covering? Super important. Cover more of that topic. Once Google likes your site for a particular type of article, a word count, keyword that you've gone after, topic, etc., do more of that. It makes a big difference. Sadly, not all number 1 ranked content is the best on the web. There are a lot of SEO factors in play here that ranks content. It's not purely just the best article. Besides, what is the best article? It's very subjective. I very well might find the best article to be totally different than what somebody else does for a particular search. So it's really an impossible quantitative measure, but you just have to produce the best content that you think is going to serve your audience the best. Sadly, also, if you produce what you think is by far the best article for a topic, that does not also guarantee number 1 rankings in Google. There's a lot of other factors. I'm going to step through a lot of the stuff in this video, all with the aim of hoping to get your content ranking at the top of page 1 in Google. Second, serves its purpose. Does your content serve a purpose? All content will either inform, entertain, inspire, humor, and or educate. A lot of content will do 2 or 3 of those things. You got to think about your content. What is the goal of it? Why are you publishing it? Generally, your site will fall in 1 or 2 of these areas as well. Like take fatsacksblog.com for instance. It really just basically educates and to a lesser extent inspire. So most of the content is geared toward that. If you run a celebrity site or a site about entertainment, it's going to be more casual. It's going to perhaps entertain. It might be funny. You might inform. So think about what it is your content is doing and then prepare and produce content that achieves that goal. Number 3, do you think it's good? Does it pass a sniff test? Now, if you are a horrible writer, this is a tough test to apply because you perhaps don't recognize good writing. But if you're a half-decent writer, usually you know when a piece of content is good. I know. I'm usually not surprised with the articles that do rank number 1, 2, or 3 on any of my sites because I just know that they are good. They're better than average, and so I'm not surprised. Once in a while, there are articles that were very mediocre and managed to rank number 1. But generally speaking, the stuff that ranks really, really well and gets a lot of traffic, especially for the more competitive keywords, that content is really good. And which begs the question, well, then why isn't every article as good as the really, really good stuff? And sometimes it's just harder to produce the best article for a particular topic. It just doesn't come together for whatever reason, or a particular topic you're very well suited for and it comes together really nicely, and these things happen. And so I have a range. I have really, really great content on my sites. I have some very decent content, I have some mediocre, and I have some bad. And I think if you publish enough content, you're also going to get that range as well. Number 4, is the introduction good? Now, introductions have changed a little bit in the recent past. Neil Patel put out a really good video. I thought it was an astute observation with a July 2021 Google update where he discovered that Google tended to favor articles that had a succinct, brief overview of the actual entire article right at the top. If it was a type of question type article, then it answered the question right away. So visitors who are just looking for something really, really quickly could get the answer, get what they're looking for right off the bat, right at the top, rather than having to wade through a couple thousand words of content. I like that approach. Now, in the past, I've always talked about write really engaging, interesting introductions. You want to make it clear what the article is about, but make it interesting in some capacity, whether it's a personal story, anecdote, statistics, data, or something like that relevant to the topic. Now I am, with new content, instructing writers to put a brief synopsis of exactly what the article will reveal or explain right at the top, and then I launch into the hopefully somewhat engaging introduction and then into the rest of the article. So that is how I've sort of shifted gears a little bit from the recent update. I like this approach. It actually makes sense to me. It makes sense from what Google's trying to do. It makes sense from a user perspective, and so I'm doing it. And I think it's a good practice, and it's something I'm going to continue doing. If you want to see a really, really good example of this, Business Insider does an awesome job with basically a few bullet points at the top of every article, which basically tells you the entire article in those bullet points. And if you want to read more, you can, but you get the gist right off the bat. And I like that. The other thing about introductions is you want to instruct writers or yourself to keep it short. Okay, I really can't stand it when I get this long-winded, fluffy introduction that gobbles up 500 words and it really says nothing. Nobody needs a 500-word introduction. Okay, you need maybe 150 words to do the brief synopsis, another 100 to 200 words tops for something engaging. Now, if it happens to be a really good story, a really good personal story that's gonna pull people in, then by all means you can expand beyond that. But some just general blabber, just taking up digital real estate because it can and add to the word count, I don't like that one bit. When I see it, I send it back for a revision. I don't want it in there. So I'm very mindful of that. The fluff, I don't want it. I won't publish it. So, it's a balance of getting to the point, but also trying to be somewhat engaging. People do appreciate good writing and interesting stories and anecdotes. I know I do. I really do. I will read them. I will read every word as a user of the web. And so I strive to do that. It doesn't always work out, but I think it can make the articles, especially at the beginning, much more interesting. Number 5. Oh, this is a bit of a silly one, but it can also serve a really good purpose, and that is try to coin terms within your niche. I've done that a little bit on FatStacks. It's kind of a fun thing to do. Once you get to know your niches really well, maybe you know it already really well before you started, or you get to know it better and better as you're building out your site, and you can come up with terms that are new, that describe something. And so an example with FatStacks is I've coined a term, crank and bank, which is basically cranking out lots of content, targeting low competition keywords, and monetizing with display ads. So you just crank out the content and earn money from it passively. And so is it a term that everybody's using on the web or anything like that? No, it's not. I mean, a really famous one within the blogging industry would be a skyscraper article, which was coined, I believe, by Brian Dean of Backlinko. That's become one of the industry standard terms. It's coined. And here's where this can really benefit you if it actually works out, and that is you can get a lot of backlinks. I mean, you can imagine how many backlinks Brian's received to his website to the first article about skyscraper articles and how it works and the whole concept behind it. For everybody who's ever mentioned skyscraper article in their blogs, and a lot of people have, many of them will link back to him. So it worked out as a really great natural link building method. For me, it's kind of fun to just do this sometimes, and I could just see the readers are reading, and here's this weird term, but it's in context, so you get to understand what it means, hopefully, and it's kind of fun because it gets your readers kind of do a double take. They're like, oh, well, what's that? Oh, okay, I get it. All right, so for me, just kind of trying to have a little bit of fun in this business. Number 6. What about slang and emojis? I think they have their place on some sites and in some articles. You really got to know your audience. I don't tend to myself you really go this route much at all. Emojis, I basically turn the capabilities of that off just because it's a page speed factor and they can slow sites down. But if you have the right audience for it, if you own a site like BuzzFeed, you definitely want to be using emojis and slang and in casual writing and having fun with it. If you're more of in a technical niche or something that's just straight up informative, you probably would avoid this. But you want to assess your audience. You want to get to know who your audience is before you start doing this. You might turn some people off if it's more of a serious topic, but you might, if it's more of a lighthearted niche, then you can your readers may appreciate the effort at just trying to have fun with the content and hopefully getting a few chuckles out of it. Number 7, be thorough. Okay, I'm not the best writer on the web, not even close. I'm a half decent writer at best. One area that I thrive is being thorough on topics that I cover, and I try to do so without injecting a whole bunch of fluff or meaningless content just to build up word count. So not only am I thorough typically when I write, but I also really do my best to instruct and review the writers who I hire to write to also be extremely thorough. I think it's very important. My aim is when somebody arrives to one of my sites for a particular search term, that they get all the information that they need. It may be in the form of just one article provides everything they need, or I may have a series of articles where I strategically link to them within that initial article. My goal is that they have a question or they're looking for information, they get everything they need on my site. And so that's sort of the litmus test here when I'm trying to be thorough. It includes being good and doing good keyword research. And by that I mean not only for the initial main keyword you're targeting, but any additional subtopics that really belong within the article. And content optimizers can help a lot here. I find them very useful, and some popular ones would be Surfer SEO, Market Muse, ClearScope. They're all good. Even Phrase has one. I like Phrase for other uses. It's outstanding as an outline builder. So it can be very useful in terms of trying to identify additional subtopics that you should include in your content. I also like injecting a lot of questions, really obscure specific questions for the topic within my content, and of course providing answers. And so when you add all this, you try to really carpet bomb that specific topic on whatever it is that you're publishing about. So you do need to be careful though, because if you are covering a particular higher level topic on your site, you can veer toward duplicate content and getting a lot of the same information, maybe the same Q&A and so forth across multiple articles. So you want to watch out for that, because you don't really want to do that. You get too much of that, then Google might sort of start seeing some of your articles as duplicates, and that's no good at all. That must be avoided. But definitely default toward being thorough with your content. Use the tools out there, whether it's Surfer SEO is very reasonably priced for what it offers. Market Muse is a lot more expensive. Ahrefs is a absolute must-have in this business. Even if you're starting out, I know it's expensive. It is a game changer when it comes to coming up with subtopics to add to existing articles or new articles, coming up with new article ideas, everything. I use it for pretty much everything. It's constantly open on one of my monitors. I'm in and out of it all day long. It's just absolutely invaluable. Number 8, content follows a logical sequence. This is probably another one of my strengths, in that it's, for me, it just, I have a knack for how content should flow within the article. So the simplest approach would really be ensuring that the most salient information relevant to the main topic of the article is toward the top, so that people don't have to dig around for it. It's right there. And I'm not talking about the brief synopsis introduction I talked about previously. I'm talking about the main chunk of the article should really address exactly what it is the searchers want to see, read, view, watch, whatever it is. Okay, so that needs to be at the top. Don't bury it at the bottom. A lot of writers tend to have this knack for putting the most important information at the bottom. They'll do all these other parts of the topic. It might say be a history of, or I don't know, benefits of, or something like that, and it's all at the top. And I don't like that. It's not that it's useless information. A lot of it is often very good, and it's pertinent and it's relevant to the article. But I shift that down below, and I want the absolute most important content right toward the top, right below the table of contents, so it's front and center. So plan out your content so that it flows logically, and you can do this with simple outlines, or you can do it once it's somebody's put a draft up on your website. You can just copy or cut and paste and move it around, and it's very quick to do, but it really sort of always put yourself in the shoes of your visitors. What is it that they would want to see and read first and foremost for any particular search? Number 9, no spelling mistakes or grammatical errors. Okay, I am a hypocrite here. Fatsack's blog is fraught with spelling mistakes. Not too terrible on the grammar side of things, but spelling is atrocious. I have a scanning deficiency. I just don't see these things. I can read an article like 80 times and I'm just not going to spot it. And this was even using Grammarly, which really blows my mind. You think I'd just get better at it, but I don't. I'd be a terrible editor. I am a terrible editor. I seldom spot mistakes when I'm reading other articles as well. But my view is do your best to clean this stuff up. I believe that spelling mistakes, particularly, will diminish the credibility of any website, and people are going to, a lot of people are very particular about this, about spelling mistakes. They'll even take the time to email you and say, oh, you got a spelling mistake on this article here and here, and they're going to think, well, you know, if it's this sloppy with these spelling mistakes, how credible or how reliable is the information? And I think that that's a valid concern. So do take care. And I know I'm being a hypocrite here, because if you've read emails from me or blog posts on Fatsax, there's a lot of spelling mistakes there, and I'm sure on my niche sites as well. Number 10. Evergreen versus news or trending content. Now, this is really going to boil down to the niche that you're in and the type of site that you want to operate. Both are very good. I veer pretty much 99% toward the evergreen stuff. And evergreen is I go after keywords that are going to be relevant in 2 years and 3 years, and that the information is more or less going to be about the same. Sometimes it requires updating. Okay. Now, news is an entirely different type of website where it's relevant maybe for 24 hours, maybe a week, maybe even a month, but eventually it kind of falls off the interest spectrum fairly quickly. So I like Evergreen just because if I'm putting the effort and the money and time into publishing content, I'd like it to earn ad revenue and or affiliate revenue for as long as possible. But you know, the news type of website can work really well, especially if you get into Google News. It can be a really huge, easy source of traffic. And of course, you can do both on any niche site. You can have a niche site with a lot of evergreen content. You can have a news area where you're publishing a lot of just news type content as well. And then there's a third type, and that's the product review type of content, and this is kind of evergreen, but it's not. It all depends on the products as well. But you know, for instance, if you're doing a tech review site and you're reviewing smartphones and laptops and earbuds and all of these things, their duration where they're relevant is not all that long. It might be 6 months, it might be a year, and then the search volume for those products is going to fall as the new models come out. Now, there are good secondary markets and used markets for a lot of this stuff, so they do stay relevant longer than you might think, but you have to keep this in mind if you're going to go toward more of the product review, because they are going to get outdated quite a bit faster than a lot of just pure evergreen content. Number 11, references. It's troubling to me often when writers fail to follow my instructions about references. Here's what I like to see, and I don't do this all the time because writers don't always follow the instructions, and sometimes I just don't want to send it back for a revision. Okay, my preference is that if there's a reference that's needed, if there needs to source a particular other website or another article, it needs to be done in context, which means just hyperlink the word or few words that's relevant, or even in square brackets, put source at the end of a sentence and then hyperlink source to the article where that bit of information was gleaned, whether it's a statistics or whether it's an opinion or whatever it may be. I like it in context because then people have a contextual reference at their fingertips, so they can click through to the other site and see that. Okay. The other option is to create endnotes where you list out the references at the end. I just find that as a user to be cumbersome, and I don't like that quite as much. Now, it cleans up perhaps the content a little bit, but I prefer the links and the content. Both are acceptable. The most important takeaway here is to source the work. It's really going to help the credibility of your site. I don't worry about this whole concept of leaking page rank or SEO juice to other sites and giving links. Google wants sites to link to other sites, especially if they're other good sites and they're relevant, and it's all tied together. That's the whole premise behind how SEO works with Google, and so I'm totally in on that. I'm fine with that. I link liberally to other websites. I instruct writers to source their work liberally, and so that there are a lot of outbound links on my sites. Number 12. Visuals. This is huge, huge, huge. It could be a huge benefit to your niche site and to any article. Images, it's a no-brainer. Cool it on the images unless it's very image specific, like it's a gallery. You don't need 30 images in an article if it's text-based, but adding 3, 4, 5 images can definitely enhance, especially if they're relevant. Where you can really shine would be with custom illustrations. You can get Fiverr gigs that will produce amazing custom illustrations very quickly for not a lot of money. You can incorporate tables. Just don't use too many columns. Make sure the tables look good on mobile. You can do charts and graphs with Google Sheets. You can do them for free very, very quickly. Just download them as a ping and add them to your site. Timelines, ultimate add-ons for Gutenberg plugin. It's a plugin, a block library for Gutenberg. It's by the folks behind Astra Theme, which I also use on my sites. They have this really cool timeline blocks, and you can create a timeline. If you look in the bottom corner here, it creates a timeline that basically looks just like that. And it's just such a cool visual, and you can provide so much information very, very quickly. I like that. I like timeline type articles. I read them. I enjoy them. I guess maybe it's because I appreciate history and I like reading about history. And so I like using the timeline. I don't use it in everything, but when I can, I like to use it. Lastly, there are the fancy affiliate showcases. And there you go. Look at that. Spelling mistake. I just couldn't avoid that. Anyway, fancy affiliate showcases. You can use plugins such as Lasso. It does some really nice showcases. There's a few others that are just for Amazon. They're great. I tend to lately, I don't do a whole lot of them because most of my content's information based, and so they're not going to really convert no matter how fancy I make the affiliate links or sections. But if I do them, I like to use the Gutenberg styling blocks. You got dividers and columns and buttons, and you can put all the stuff in, and you can craft your own high converting little affiliate showcases or promotion areas within your website, and that doesn't require adding any additional plugins or spending any extra money. So it's pretty convenient, and for that I really like Gutenberg. There's some things I don't like about Gutenberg, but when it comes to adding some styling into a website or a blog post, I really, really like it. Number 13, point of view. Now, this is really boils down to personal preference. I tend to like content on my sites published written in the first person, which is, the person writing. So I went to the grocery store today and I bought a loaf of bread. Okay, so the third person wouldn't be like that. Both are totally acceptable. It's a really personal preference, but think about what it is you're doing. Now, you may have multiple writers on your website, and I don't really dictate how writers go about this sort of stuff. I let them write in the way that they want to write. Most of them do write in the first person, and your readers may get to know some of your writers. They may actually seek them out on your website, and then you may have content that's not attributed to any particular writer, but it's just generally outsourced content, and you can choose whether it's written in the first or the third person. It doesn't really matter. I just have a preference for first person. Number 14, it's easy to read. This is really important, but it's so simple to do. But short paragraphs, use bullet points when applicable. Lots of bullet points is great. Bold. I tend not to underline because that gets confusing. People might think it's a link, so I don't underline. Italicize, big headings for your heading 2 tags, your heading 3 tags. I usually find by default the themes make them too small. I'll go in and I'll tweak them all for a site-wide, and I'll make the font a lot larger for headings. I also make the actual content text quite a bit larger, anywhere from 15 to 18. It depends on the font itself. Lots of white space. I like this, and I want to make it easy for people to read on mobile devices, on desktop and tablet. I spend some time doing this and checking it out because I think it makes a big difference. I don't like going to websites where I have to squint on my phone trying to read it, or all the text is bunched up together really tightly. It doesn't make for a very good reading experience. Number 15, write for the medium. Now, I've generally been talking about ranking content on websites, but if you do write an email newsletter, or you write video scripts, or you run a podcast on a blog, and you're recycling your content, yeah, you could probably get away with using the same. Let's say you write the email and then you post it as a blog post. That can work. I do it on FatSucks all the time. You can even more or less read it for a podcast and even turn it into a video script. But I find generally, if you want to elevate your game, the content is going to should be a little bit different depending on the medium. Like for email, it's a lot more personal than it would be for a general blog post. A video script is probably going to be a lot more condensed. Podcast, I kind of break all the rules when it comes to podcasting. I just kind of wing it. I get a topic, I make some bullet points, and I just yammer on. Video is a little bit more structured in terms of creating the slides and so forth. So it's really going to depend on your medium. But typically, if you're mostly just publishing web pages, then you just write it more, and it's more of a formal process. Doesn't mean you can't make it casual or lighthearted, but it's going to be typically more of a formal writing style. Number 16, write for your audience. Okay, so, I mean, if you're in a, let's say, a model train hobby niche, your audience is going to pretty much want you to be pretty dry, pretty technical, straight to the point. If you're going to be talking about tools for model train building or accessories or model trains themselves, they're going to want you to get very specific and technical. There's probably going to be a lot of jargon in there that the layperson who's never done anything with model trains wouldn't understand. That's okay, because your audience is a technical audience, very interested, and the people who are into model trains are really into it. And this kind of applies to any, especially hobby niches specifically, or technical niches like whether, I don't know, some high-level software or within some sort of professional industry like engineering or law. There's going to be a lot of jargon. There's going to be a lot of technical language. Now, that doesn't mean you can't try to simplify the writing so that it's easier to read or more enjoyable to read. You definitely can, but you also don't want to veer too far toward lightheartedness and casualness and being flippant and trying to crack jokes, because they're not really there for that. If you're publishing some website that's covering TV or celebrity stuff, or some lifestyle blog where people are just there and they're seeking inspiration or entertainment, not necessarily just being informed, you can then attempt to be funny and have fun with it. I tend to do that with FatSucks, even though it is somewhat of a technical niche, in that people are really primarily looking to learn about certain things pertaining to blogging and monetizing blogs. But I will often try to joke around a little bit, lighten it up a little bit. But if I fail to include the salient, important information that they seek, they're probably not going to be much interested in signing up to the FatSucks newsletter or ever coming back. So know your audience and write for them. Number 17, format properly. I am fanatical about proper formatting, and I really get frustrated when it's not done. I've spent a lot of time training VAs who put content on my site to format everything. And I format pretty much the same way across all my sites. That makes it really easy. And so, for instance, I like to have a big image at the top under the title, and then there's the synopsis of the article, and then an engaging introduction, table of contents, then heading tag 2 for the first section, and then if there's subheadings under there, heading 3, heading 3, heading 3, and then if there's a sub to that, heading 4. And so I use those heading 4 tags very, very methodically, and they need to be correct, and I don't like it when they aren't correct. And I can tell very quickly whether they're correct or not just by looking at the table of contents, because it usually will have them in a hierarchy based on those heading tags. So that's a quick and easy way for me to make sure everything's done right. I like my images centered. I don't like left or right align images because they can look bad on mobile. I like a lot of bullet points whenever possible because it's easy to read and people can get a lot of information quickly. A goal of yours with your content is to try to make it as easy for readers to absorb all the information that you're getting to them as quickly as possible without any strain or difficulty. Now, of course, the one exception to that is ads. Ads are going to get in the way. They're going to interrupt the flow, especially the video ads or sticky ads. They are going to get away, but you know what? We gotta pay the bills, right? So that's the exception I have. I have ads on my site, and I have a fair amount of ads on my sites, and that is the one. That's the one cost for readers going there. I'm not running a niche website charity here. Lastly, I've already mentioned this before, large text. Make sure the text is large enough that it's easy to read. Not so large that it becomes almost impossible to get through an article. Number 18, internal linking. Don't forget. This is so easy to forget, at least for me. I can forget. I can do everything. Everything's perfect. Get ready to go, hit publish, and then I'm on to the next thing. And a few days later, it's like, oh, did I build the links to other articles on my site, and did I build links from other articles on the site back to the, I can't remember. I go, and sure enough, I didn't. I forgot. Very easy to forget, and it's easy to say, you know what, I'll just get the next 30 articles published, and I'll go and I'll do the interlinking after that. I can tell you from personal experience, chances are you may never get around to that. So for me, it's a really good practice to do internal linking as new content is getting published, and it really helps with on-site SEO. It's important. I like interlinking all the relevant articles together. If there's a cornerstone involved that's tying everything together within a series, I like to interlink that properly. If it's really important cornerstone, I'll link to it from the homepage. So I'll actually think about what is going to be the interlinking strategy for any particular article. If it's a real sort of low competition, low search volume, not all that terribly important of an article, I may only interlink it to its cornerstone, and then from the cornerstone to that, and leave it at that. If it's more important, it's going to have more links going out to other articles and from other articles. So think about every article, and don't forget to do the interlinking. Number 19, affiliate links. Okay, now if you have a money page, that is any page where the main search keyword that you're going after has some sort of buyer intent behind it, it's commercial, people who search that have a pretty good chance of ultimately buying something, you want to take great care and put in your affiliate links, whether they're product showcases or a table or buttons or even just hyperlinks or something, so that you can maximize the affiliate revenue for that article. If it's just an informational article, most of my content is informational, I often don't even bother with affiliate links. I'll link to other merchants and brands and products and so forth, and I don't even bother putting in affiliate links. And I try to keep the overall affiliate link count low-ish on my sites. I don't have any empirical evidence that Google will hammer a site because there's too many affiliate links. I think if content's thin and it's clearly a bridge page, yeah, Google has an issue with that. They've expressly said that. But in terms of if it's really good information and you incorporate an affiliate link or two in there, I don't think there's any problem with that. But there is a time element to it, and if I know that somebody it's never really going to convert to anything, I just don't bother putting affiliate links in there. And it also serves a purpose in terms of when you're going to sell a site, and you know you have, let's say, a couple hundred articles that are informational generally, and you could say to the buyer, you know, there is some opportunity to incorporate a lot more affiliate links and showcases in a lot of the content. I never bothered with that. I was just happy with the ad revenue. You don't want to overstate it. You don't want to say like, well, if you put in affiliate links everywhere, you're going to triple the revenue of the site by next week. You know, I wouldn't say that, but you just say there are some opportunities. I didn't use affiliate marketing to its full extent on the site. Number 20, page speed scores. Page speed scores. Google has a Google Page Speed Insights little tool that you can go to. You incorporate, you insert the URL to an article, it'll give you a score. The scores are going to look something like this, between 1 and 100. Anything, I can't remember the entire breakdown. Under 90s, like then you're into yellow, and then if it's even below a certain point, further down the line, it's red. You don't want red for mobile. You want 90 or higher, which is green, and that is a really good score. Now, there's a lot of publishers out there completely disregarding this. This 37 was taken from CNN. A lot of huge publishers just get totally terrible scores. They don't seem to really care about this. I don't know how much Google is really going to incorporate this in the search algo. They said that they have, but it's a minor ranking factor. Nobody really knows. But I figure it's something I actually have control over. And if it is a ranking factor and I have some control over whether I can get good scores, I've put a huge effort into getting good scores. I don't get green on every article on mobile on all my sites, but I get quite a bit of green, and it's registering green in Search Console. So overall, I'm very pleased with the work I've done. But it's really required that I keep out the bloat on content, and so I used to put every script and bell and whistle that I could into articles just to make them better, and didn't really care if they loaded fast or if they were slow. And I don't do that anymore. I keep it at really bare bones as possible. I got rid of tons of plugins. I'm very mindful of ever adding plugins for anything. At most, I will look for a Gutenberg block to do something because that's a lighter weight, and it will only load on that specific page rather than site-wide. No extra scripts. I just don't want extra scripts on my site. I use Gutenberg blocks pretty much for everything, for any sort of bell and whistle styling that I'm going to use. And I can tell you from personal experience, bells and whistles, slippery slope. There's another spelling mistake. Look at that. I guess Grammarly just didn't work there. Bells and whistles equal slippery slope. Big time. You can be like, you just start adding stuff and you're adding some. Before you know it, you got 60 plugins when you only need 20, and it's going to slow your site down. Focus on this. I think it's important. At least I think it's important. And once your site is clean and you're chugging along really well and everything's clean and light and fast loading and your users like it, I know it makes for a better user experience. Like seriously, when you go to a website, if you're searching on mobile, do you care if there is some fancy quiz there or something, or would you just rather for the thing to just load fast? I just rather it load fast and just provide the information I'm looking for. End of story. Lastly, conclusions. I can't stand conclusions. I instruct writers to not write a conclusion. I don't want to see the word conclusion as a heading or anywhere in the article ever. I think it's just a big waste of time. If somebody's read the article, they don't need somebody to rehash the article to them. And I think it's just a big waste of money and word count and time for everyone involved, so I don't use conclusions. There is one exception. If it's a product review or some sort of opinion piece where a verdict is required at the bottom with, yes, this is worth buying, no, this is a piece of junk, don't get it, that would be as far as I go with any sort of conclusion. But you've got to instruct your writers. If you hire writers, you have to tell them not to write a conclusion, because 99 out of 100 writers that you hire are going to write a conclusion, and you will pay for word count. That is pretty much useless. That's a wrap. That is my 21-point checklist for trying to get as much good content out the door. Remember, this stuff is a numbers game. Just because you do all of this does not guarantee rankings, but if you do really good keyword research, I can't emphasize enough how important getting the right keywords, low competition, easy to rank keywords for your article topics, especially in the beginning, is, because if you do that part right, and even if you write just a mediocre article, you stand a pretty good chance of getting some traffic. But you combine really good keyword research with publishing quite good content or stellar content, you stand a very good chance to grow a nice high traffic website in due course. Thanks for watching.